What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy, a kid from Brooklyn. Today, you can see I'm flying solo dolo, but that's all right. We had some work issues. We had some um, how do I say it? Some uh, how do I put this? We had some uh, creative differences issues, but everybody will be back together. We had nice conversations about some stuff, but today the topic is obviously going to center around he who shall not be named and everything that has happened and transpired because of that. Um, let's just put it this way. We know that a couple of weeks ago that Republican activist, right-wing activist, Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And as everyone else has said, um, it should never have happened. It's something that we cannot condone and something um, that cannot be part of the way that we live. It's something that can't happen. And with all of that being said, there's a truth that has to be told behind that. But we do know that people are losing their jobs. High profile people like Jimmy Kimmel and other folks are being fired and terminated because they dared to say anything or to speak out or to have a voice. And if you know anything about me, then you understand that I'm not going to hold back simply because there's a threat to something. Even though it doesn't feel like it, free speech is still a thing in this country, at least as an ideal. We do know I work in a school, I teach, and so I know that schools have the right to abridge your free speech. I know that you can't yell fire in a public place. I know that there are certain things you can't do and call it free speech. And so, but talking about the truth about people is not abridging free speech or where free speech should be abridged. If you see today, I'm wearing my Howard University gear. I did not go to Howard. I want to go to Howard. Y'all need to help me by writing in and all of that to convince my wife um, that we should move to Washington for at least like 2 years so I can finish law school and do all of that there. It's probably not going to work, but still. All right. So today, let's get into it. I've been having these conversations. I just got off the phone having a conversation about the idea of everything that's happened around. Let's call it he who shall not be named. Um, it was too easy, right, for people like that to have a voice that echoed and spoke some of the most horrible things that we've ever heard said about people. And it's just the truth, right? It's a plain truth. It's not a celebration of what happened. It's not a celebration of the crazy man who did what he did. That man should be put in jail. He should be put in jail for a long time. He should be locked up behind bars. But my question is around the idea that people feel so comfortable to be able to go out and to voice these opinions, to voice these things, and then we call it politics. I've watched almost every newscast. I've watched people I respect, like Ezra Klein from the New York Times, and all these people say that he who shall not be named did politics the right way. That's not true, right? That's just not what politics are or politics is. Let's break politics down, right? Let me tell you what this show is about, and you can make a decision about whether or not you want to watch a kid from Brooklyn or going forward or what. This show is specifically geared towards culture and politics and the intersection of those two, and specifically how they intersect in terms of race and how that impacts one, the Black community, and then every other community after that. If you can't tell, I happen to be a Black person. If you can't tell, I'm brown skinned and all of that. My heart is with my people. Everything I do is for my people. Every degree I get, every conversation I have, everything I do is for my people. And it starts that way. So this show is about culture and politics and the intersection of those things as they relate to race and how they relate to the motion and the forward movement for African American people. Now, you could tune in, you could tune out, you could share, you can do all of that stuff. We're going to be here. One viewer, two viewers, three viewers, no viewers. We're going to be here. We're going to be on YouTube. We're going to get recorded. We're going to get out there. So, speaking about what's going on, the conversations I had today, they centered around not having a whole show about this guy. And what I said was that the show would never just be about this guy because it's bigger than him. It first it hit me over the week, like, how is it that people are so comfortable voicing things? But then as I was having the conversation, it got me. This person and their voice represented the conscience of America, right? It represented the things that were unspoken in things like the Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal, given with certain inalienable rights that are granted by their creator, and all of this. But in that document was not us. In that document was not indigenous people. In that document was not Mexicans or Hispanics or Latinos or anybody else who did not look like an Anglo-Saxon white male. It wasn't even white women included in that document. We got to be clear about that, right? And so then you understand how the rhetoric starts to heat up and people are tuning in, and you have millions and millions of followers that are buying into this notion that of the welfare queen, or that black people are this, or that indigenous people are that, or that gay people are this or that. We got to call out all of the bigotry and hatred wherever we see it without fear of reprisal, because the truth will and shall make you free. And the truth is, we have created the circumstances for people to feel comfortable to still espouse and spout this nonsense. We have allowed for college campuses, and yes, college campuses should be places where we have open and free debate, but there has to be a limit, right? Colleges should not be allowing people to come on campus and to spew hate. If the Trump administration decided it was going to go after brown people, or anybody who was taking the Palestinian side, and say that this was hate speech and all of that, then why is it that it's okay to go on a college campus or a college tour anywhere and espouse and spew hatred for other people just because they're not white, just because they're not your allies? Why is it so comfortable for people to go and do that? And it's not just he who shall not be named, it's everybody. Why is it that it's okay for Donald Trump to come down an escalator and start talking about Mexican people, and he get voted in as president of the United States? Why is it for him to say in the deposition that, hey, she said I raped her, so yeah, I did, and him to still be voted president of the United States? Why is it okay for Marjorie Taylor Greene and all of these other people to be able to get into Congress? Why is that okay? It's because we have created the scenarios and the situations and the comfortability for this stuff to happen. Now, you say, Lopez, it's got to be bigger than the black issue. It is. This is about, and I'm going to steal a line from Joseph Robinette Biden. It is about the soul of America. It is a battle. It always has been. But let's start from the beginning. I just watched something that said that people think that Puritans came over here in order to like find a better life and a better way and all the other kind of stuff. But they said, no, they really came over here so that they could practice a religion that was pure, that was just theirs. And anybody who didn't fit into that construct, that they got them. Right? They said, hey, if a woman believed a certain thing, they burned her at the stake. This place, this idea of America is built on a foundation where the ideology is so good, right? And I think that's what I love about America, is that its ideals are awesome. It is great. I don't think there's any place in the world that has these types of ideals, that says that all people are created equal, that if you work hard enough that you can get ahead, right? I don't think there's any place in the world that offers all of the opportunities that America offers. The problem is that the opportunities just have never been given to everyone. I do the math. I'm a math person sometimes, especially easy math. 1619 was 406 years ago. And if you know anything about history, 1619 in Virginia, that's where the first ships landed, or the first ship landed with Africans who were to be enslaved, with our ancestors, if you're African American. I think the trick is you have to understand that not every black person in America is African American. Some people have come from the Caribbean. Some people have come from other places. Not that they haven't been touched by enslavement, but for 406 years, there has been a an implanting in our DNA, and you can do the science behind it. There are animals adapt over time, and we are animals, but we adapt over time to danger, right? There are certain things that our body just remembers based on the history that our ancestors have been through. And so it is when we recognize and notice danger, we automatically have a response or reaction to it. So for 406 years, we have been conditioned to be survivors and not I don't want to say we've been conditioned to be survivors and to play the survival road or survival role. And so it is interesting to me. I think that's part of the reason why it's okay for rhetoric like what we hear, even in the halls of politics right now, in the halls of Congress, those 435 people and those 100 people in the Senate. I think that it's okay for them to say what they say because as Black people, we are in survival mode. The person I was talking to asked me, do I think that any of this would ever change? Do I think there's a change in the system that could happen? And the truth is, I do. I do. And they said, but I don't. And I said, well, here's the problem. When you feel like there's no change in the system, you tell me that you don't want to have a survivor's mentality or a victim mentality. But when a person says that there's nothing that can be done, you have already been fully victimized, right? You are already lying down as a victim and you are taking whatever the person does. You have just been defeated. And I refuse to be defeated. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, I like to talk about them. And I think they're especially poignant in this moment of political violence. They're poignant in this moment where America is standing again at a crossroads, where the system of oppression is changing once again. You know, we went from Jim Crow, we went to the new Jim Crow, we went to kind of a quasi open air prison kind of system, and now we're moving to whatever this new version of Project 2025, fascism, all of that. I don't know what they'll call it or what it'll be named or dubbed, but we're moving into a new era of oppression. And I think to talk about them is really poignant right now for two reasons. We have always had a fundamental misunderstanding of Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. They were the same person. Malcolm X did not espouse or he did not represent violence. And I think that's the trick people don't understand. When he said by any means necessary, you have to take what he said in its totality. He was talking about defending yourself by any means necessary. He was talking about defending the square inches of your body, of your humanity, of your dignity, of your family's dignity, of your family's right to exist by any means necessary. But he did not espouse violence or actions that were violent against the oppressor. He had a philosophical, moral, and ethical debate about the oppressor. He never said for us to be violent, but when you have those debates, when you are able to speak up and speak out against your oppressor, it is the oppressor that will say that you are violent and you are a cancer to the system and you are a danger. And so Martin Luther King Jr., he was professing nonviolence as a tactic. But if you really listened to him, his rhetoric was even more robust and demonstrative, I think, and troublesome for America than Malcolm X's was. When he was killed, he had almost no friends in any corner. The civil rights leaders had left him because he weighed in on the Vietnam situation. It's interesting that the day he gave a speech about Vietnam, if you fast forward 365 days later to the day, that is the day he was assassinated. It was one full year from the time he gave a speech in Riverside at the Riverside Church denouncing Vietnam. It was a year to the day that he was killed. But in this moment, what that did was it was a chilling effect, right? It stopped us from being able to get up and have those conversations. We had people like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and some of these other folks fill that vacuum. But it appears to me and to everybody who grew up in my era, for the most part, that these people were more opportunists than they were revolutionary, right? They got shows off of what they did, and they speak the language of action. They speak the language of revolution in some respects, but they have never really been revolutionary. It's not revolutionary to have a protest or a march. It just isn't. It's revolutionary to actually begin to speak up and loudly and in the face of the oppressor, in the halls of the oppressor. Yes, they ran for president. Yes, they did all of this, but where are they now? Jesse Jackson is like 150 years old, so we're not talking about Jesse Jackson. But there was a chilling effect. And if you look between the time that Martin and Malcolm were assassinated, there's never been somebody to stand on a box like they did. And so what's filled that space? These voices from the right, these voices of racism, these voices of hatred, these voices of bigotry, these voices of sexism, these voices of misogyny. They have filled the vacuum, the spaces that were left by our leaders, and they have assimilated us back into the culture and the understanding that we are less than. See, I think there was a moment in time when we have to realize that we were not asking for civility, and that we didn't want civility from the oppressor. What we wanted was the oppressor to see us as on par and equal with them. And because we accepted civility, right, what they basically said is, listen, we will behave a certain way toward you, but we will never consider you equal. We will give you certain rights. We will give you certain things. We'll allow you to vote. We'll allow you to live in certain neighborhoods. Of course, we're going to do some redlining so you can't come where we are, but we're going to allow you to have all of these things. But we'll never consider you equal. And so that is why you don't see people being able to, like a Mehdi Hassan, right? Or even who's the other person? Amanda Seales, who just did one of the those shows on YouTube where you sit and you debate people for like, I guess 5-10 minutes at a time. You don't see these voices. You don't see them on college campuses. They're not welcome. You don't see them in spaces. You don't see them on an MSNBC anymore, right? Mehdi Hassan used to be on MSNBC, but Mehdi Hassan can't say the stuff that he needs to say. Until we decide that enough is enough, then the vacuum will continue to be filled by these types of voices. Until we say somebody like Jasmine Crockett is good enough to be voted as the head of a committee, right? And until we're willing to punish those by the vote, until we're willing to use our vote and our voice to punish people at the ballot box for not allowing Jasmine Crockett and AOC and these other young gunners to be able to have positions of authority and power in Congress, then we are going to remain in the same spaces. The conversation is bigger than he who shall not be named. It is bigger than anything that has happened. It is now an assault, a full-out assault on every core premise and tenet of American life. TikTok is about to be purchased. And I know you're like, Lopez, how'd you get to TikTok? Let me help you. Jimmy Kimmel is fired, or basically he's fired. ABC shuts him down. ABC is in the process of having some business before the FCC. Nexstar, the largest network owner, or local network owner that works with ABC affiliates, they're the ones who piped up. They said they're going to stop the show. Nexstar has something that they're trying to get done before the FCC. Larry Ellison has something he's trying to get before the FCC. Larry Ellison is one of the people who is talking about or being mentioned in buying TikTok. They are all mega Trump donors and supporters. And when they are talking about attacking free speech, if we put these networks in the hands of these people, then not only will they stop any speech that's going to give you balance, but they're also going to be spying on us in ways that we never thought possible. You talk about being worried about Chinese spies and hackers and spies rather than hackers on TikTok. Wait until the American right wing gets their hands on TikTok. Look at what happened to Twitter. Everybody left Twitter because they did not want to be assaulted verbally or to be doxxed by anyone who was on Twitter. Look at what happened when he who shall not be named was tragically assassinated. They set up these shops where take screenshots of people who are saying things about this gentleman and send them to us. We will get them fired. We will post their names. We'll, in some cases, post their addresses. All of this stuff happens. And it is not something that has not been happening, but it is something that's come to the forefront now because of this. We have two Democratic elected officials in Minnesota who were targeted to be killed. One was killed, her and her husband. I can't remember her name right off the top of my head. I'm sorry about that. And their dog. They murdered her husband, and her dog. And not one person on the right wing, on the right-hand side of our political spectrum, said anything about it. Nancy Pelosi's husband was hit upside the head with a hammer by a man who was trying to kidnap her. Donald Trump makes jokes about it. The second someone posts the words, just a quote by this person, they're terminated. Teachers are being terminated. Teachers. Like literally, can you imagine? Hey, your kid's favorite teacher got fired because they posted someone's words, because as a teacher, they did what they were supposed to do. They examined, they took the facts, they didn't offer an opinion, they just posted the facts, and they were terminated. Until we decide enough is enough. And how do we do that? We do that first by deciding that we're going to go vote. We do that first. Melissa Hortman, thank you. Her name is Melissa Hortman. I just got that. You heard that text come in. Melissa Hortman and her husband were murdered in Minnesota. God bless their family. May their memories be eternal. But until we, and now specifically Black people, and people who are aligned with goodwill and ethics and all of that. We talk about the moral arc of history being long and bending toward justice. It does not bend toward justice unless we pull it down toward justice. It's a cute saying. It's really great. I love it. But that moral arc needs to be forced down. Justice has not come. I remember Farrakhan saying this. The cry in the 1960s was jobs and something else he said. And then he said in the 80s, same thing, jobs and then now the same cry is jobs and then he slams his hand on the table and he says, now wait a minute. Now, how long are we going to wait? And that is the question I think that we have to answer in this moment. How long are we going to wait? How long are we going to wait to have a wake up moment like we saw at the end of school days? How long does the system have to keep screaming at us to wake up? Every other group of people are connected to each other. They stick together, they stand together, they fight together, they war together, they vote together, they eat together, they plan together, but not us. Not the people who are our allies. And I hate you. If you know me, I hate the word allies and allyship. I don't need you to be an ally. I just need you to be human. I need you to be right. I need you to treat me properly. All of this impacts you. And for those of us who think it doesn't, let me break it down this way. All of this is political. And politics infects every portion of your life. If you are living in a poorer urban neighborhood, you have been placed there by erroneous, racist, bigoted politics. How do I know that? I had a conversation with someone and I said, listen, this is no shade to you, but until you get a college degree, and this person is on their way to getting it, you will be an hourly worker, because the thing that separates most hourly workers from salaried workers is a degree. People who have a degree tend to be on salary as opposed to hourly wage. If you are on an hourly wage, the federal minimum wage, I believe, is still $7.25. They have not raised the minimum wage. There are states like my state where the minimum wage is now like $16 or 16 something. And the truth is, you cannot live on 16. You can't live on $20 an hour anywhere in the United States. You cannot afford to get a one-bedroom apartment. You cannot afford to live on that salary. And so it is that you work and you struggle from paycheck to paycheck. If you have children, I guarantee you there are times where you have to cut back or not eat at all so that your children can eat. I guarantee you your children are on free or reduced lunch, and they eat breakfast at school most of the time. They eat lunch at school most of the time. And you are scraping to get dinner on the table because that's the meal you can afford. You can afford to feed them on the weekends or on holidays. As a matter of fact, you probably are afraid of holidays. You're afraid of the summertime because when the summertime comes around, you don't have enough money to put enough food in the house for them to eat all summer long. And so you depend on summer programs if you have a school close enough. Because the minimum wage is a federally mandated thing, and because states have this really hard time deciding that they're going to raise the minimum wage or raise it to a living wage, you, through politics, are now being oppressed. And it does not matter the color of your skin. And when we try to raise the federal minimum wage, when people like Bernie Sanders and AOC and some of the other folks have brought this up over the years, politics smacks them down. Even the Democratic Party smacks them down. There's not enough power behind the Democratic Party to do it. The party had the Congress and the Senate. They had the House of Representatives and the Senate, and they did not pass this stuff. You have to start asking yourself why. Do you have the right Democratic people in there? Do you have the right representation in there? You and I have this agreement with the country that says we're okay with representative government, but then a lot of us stay home and don't vote for our representatives. We don't vote for the people who share the same ideology or voices as us, and then we wonder, will things ever change? Well, the answer is hell no. It's not going to change if you're not out there voting. Nobody has asked you to go out on a corner and get a microphone or to try to organize a million-man march or to try to organize a march on Washington or a boycott like they did in Montgomery or any of the things. No one's asking you to walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. No one's asking you to run for office. We're simply asking you to get out there and vote, to tell the people who you know, listen, I paid attention to the stuff that people were saying. And this person and I agree on things, and I think you need to go out and vote for them. As a matter of fact, if you don't have a ride, I'll go vote with you. If you have to vote after work and you want me to wait before I vote to come with you so you have somebody to stand in line with and talk with for the next hour while you stand in this line, then I will do that. But get out there and vote. That is to do something. You spend half your day on this thing right here. Are you posting anything educational for people? Are you reading anything? Do you know what's going on politically? Do you know what's going on in the world generally? Do you know anything? Are you versed on any aspect of what's going on? Do you know that they just lowered the interest rates? The Fed just lowered the interest rates to make money easier to borrow, but you can't borrow money because you're in a position where your credit is bad because the politics has oppressed you to the point where you don't have money to pay off the credit cards that they gave you because they knew you couldn't pay them back because you didn't understand what a grace period was. You didn't understand what an APR was. You don't understand interest rates or how they calculate daily rates or how they calculate. You don't understand any of that stuff. And they know that and they prey on you. Politics has put all of us where we are. And so if we think about this, the rhetoric of politics, the speech of politics, the talking of politics, it cannot be violent. So when Ezra Klein and others on MSNBC or CNN or these other places that are supposed to be these benign networks or these networks that play the middle or these networks that speak truth to power, when people are saying that politics was practiced right when and correctly when hate was being spewed over microphones and over megaphones and on college campuses and in the halls of Congress, when people say that I invite you to the table and it doesn't matter what I say, it's free speech, and that's politics, that's incorrect. It's wrong. Because it's those types of things that are freely released into the atmosphere and then freely find their ways into the halls of Congress, and they get funding placed behind them, that put us into the situations that we're in. And until you understand how the apparatus works, the apparatus will always work against you. It will always be against you. It wasn't until we understood how to dismantle Jim Crow laws, until we understood and were speaking up about what they did and the impact of them. It wasn't until people like Fannie Lou Hamer and others, Medgar Evers, spoke out against what not being able to vote was for us, until they put their lives on the line, until they did something with an understanding of how that impacts us. It wasn't until then that 1965 shows up and the Voting Rights Act happens. It wasn't until those types of things to put pressure on Lyndon Baines Johnson, a Southern Democrat, winds up signing the most consequential piece of legislation, except the New Deal, right? The two most consequential pieces of legislation in American history, the New Deal and the 1964 Civil Rights Act. But we want to make this about the assassin and his unfortunate victim. And I urge you, do not get online talking about this person deserved it. No one deserved it. And no, we don't like what people say, but words should never be met with bullets. A child should never be fatherless or be made fatherless because you don't like what someone is saying. A wife should never be made a widow because you don't like what someone is saying. And when we get online and we start talking about this stuff, we perpetuate the nonsense and the rhetoric, and we become no better than the people who are saying what they're saying, and we're no better than the oppressors. And one of the things that Paulo Freire talks about in his book, the Pedagogy of the Oppressed, is he talks about the idea that when the oppressed break free of oppression, they themselves will become the oppressors. We cannot do that. We have to resist that. And so there has to be a system in place. I deal in education, and I am very heck bent on dismantling this system of education we have. In my doctoral studies, that is what I am talking about. That is what I am coming up with. That is what I talk about every day with my colleagues. I talk about this idea of cultural epistemology and dismantling, not simply disrupting the systems of educational inequality, or inequity, but dismantling them and replacing them with a system of equitability. And so we have to be strategic. So I'm in education, and that's the place where I work. That's what I do. The question now becomes, what do you do? If you're sitting at home right now and you're listening to me, or you find this broadcast somewhere, you hear this, or somebody shares it with you, and you're sitting at home and you don't have a degree in something, or you're not experienced in something, or you're not well read in something, I need you to go and either get well read in something, because degrees are a lot these days. It costs too much to go to college. But books are free. They are in the library. They are online. My brothers and sisters, Black, white, blue, or green, Hispanic, Latino, Mexican, whoever, Asian, whoever you are, my brothers and sisters, books are free. And books, not textbooks, but books in the library, contain the truth. You can go and find the truth. You can go and be informed. You can become an expert without having a degree, but you've got to place yourself in some field, in some level of expertise, so that you can begin to work in those areas to dismantle systems of inequality. So you can dismantle systems of racism. You can dismantle systems of inequity. And you can begin to replace them and build for the future. See, look, the people aren't going to let you do it. They're going to fight against you. They're going to try to take you out. They're going to speak against your name. They're going to do all kind of stuff. But you have got to stay the course. They're going to try to take your job. They're going to try to take your livelihood. They're going to try to besmirch you. I love that word, besmirch. There's something about it. You've got to be willing to stand in there and fight, because you understand you are not fighting simply for you. You're not fighting simply for your family, but you are fighting for the person standing next to you, the person standing next to them, and the people coming after you. I told you this show is about culture and politics, and where they intersect is specifically in a racial context, but specifically for the African American race. And I believe that what's good for us is good for the entire country. I see it in education. I see it in every walk of life. I see it in finance. I see it in the economy. I see it all over the place. When African American people are allowed to do well, and that word allowed is crazy, right? When the systems have been deconstructed in a way that allow us to get into the door, and we are able to build something that now is a bridge that goes back to other people, that bring more people in because we cut a hole in the system, everybody benefits. Everybody. The most educated group of people in America, the people who participate, African American women. I bet you didn't know that the most active set of fathers in their children's lives are African American, but the system will tell you that African American children are bastardized more and at a higher rate, and that their fathers are absent more than any other race. The truth is out there. To combat this nonsense rhetoric, this nonsense politics, the truth is out there. The question becomes, do you want to participate in the truth and fighting against and pushing back and empowering people, not just us, but empowering people all over the place to be able to speak truth to power? Power can only be checked by truth. Listen, let me say it again, because I think there's a truism in there. Power can only be checked by truth. Truth is a cudgel that beats back power, that reduces power to nothingness. Truth is the ultimate arbiter of justice. Justice does not come until we figure out how to speak the truth. And so if you want to know how to do this, it's time to speak the truth. It's time to learn the truth. It's time to stop sitting back and being internet warriors. It's time to stop sitting back and talking about, well, he said this and he said that. This is not about he who shall not be named. This is about you and me. This is about all of us. This is about what we are going to do. It is about the spaces we are willing to occupy. And it's about the chances and risks we are willing to take to make this place live up to its ideals, that all men, all people are created equal, and that those inalienable rights that we have been granted by our Creator. And I don't care who you call the Creator. I don't care where you think you came from. I don't care if you think you rolled up out of the water. I don't care if you think that you were created Adam and Eve. I don't care what you think. The truth is, we all share some type of belief and some type of creation story. Whether you rolled up out of the water and became an ape or whatever it was, we all come from the same substance, which means that we all have the same rights. We all have the same freedoms. We all have the same inherent things that just belong to us as humans. And so I'm going to close this whole show by saying and talking about the notion that we're all in this together. That's a High School Musical thing. Every time I say that, I think about that. I am a mentor in the My Brother's Keeper program, that initiative that was started by President Obama for young men of color, specifically African American men. This year, we have a wonderful boy who is an Indian student, and I absolutely adore him. There are challenges that he faces because of his religion, because of what he wears, because of his accent. We have Hispanic, Latino students in our MBK program. Um, I'm pushing to get, I think we have a couple of white students. I don't know. I think so. But as a mentor, the thing that we recognize is that we are our brother's keeper. And we have a retreat where we go and we do a rites of passage. And at the end, we gather in a circle and we start to explain what this means to us. The kids talk. We don't talk, we listen. And the idea of having someone to have your back, the idea of having a keeper, the idea of having someone lock arms with you, that when you cannot stand, they're there to hold you up. That idea is more powerful than you can imagine. And if we are going to defeat the systems of fascism, if we're going to defeat the right-wing politics, if we're going to defeat the hatred on the left wing, because let's be honest, there's hatred on both sides. There are extremes on both sides. If we're going to defeat the hatred and the vitriol and all of that on each side, then we have to become each other's keeper. One of my greatest regrets is that I don't get to spend enough time with someone who I think is an amazing person who I met a long time ago. And she is I call her a hippie from California. She is an older white woman who is my hippie friend, who's very, very California-y. She's an older gay woman, and I love her to pieces. And we don't get to see each other. We text each other every summer just about and say we're going to have lunch, and we never do. But I know that a person like this has my back. And I know that people who have my back aren't people who just look like me, but they are people who share the same ideals, the same thoughts, the same desires. And this is where I was headed. I don't care if you're a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, a libertarian. I don't care if you're a Martian. I don't care what you are. When each of us sit down at the table at night, here is what we all desire: a safe place to live, the ability to put food on our tables and in our bellies, the ability to have the freedom to enjoy the life we have, and for those who have kids, a safe neighborhood for them to be in, to be able to play on the streets together, a good school system for them to be in, and a chance for them to have a better life than we had. Everybody wants those things. Those are a core set of needs, desires, and wants that everybody has. And for every one of us who is saying to themselves, well, they hate me, or they're not like me, they are more like you than you think. We are more like each other than we think. If we can start at the base level, I want to be safe. We can start by saying that we can reverse a whole bunch of stuff. There is no one who is inherently unsafe for you. You learn that stuff. But if we can just start there. I used to walk around not liking certain people because of the way they looked or the color of their skin. And I used to think that people hated me because of the color of their skin, not my skin, but that the color of their skin automatically meant that they hate me. And as I grew older in my 45 years, I've learned that that's my own biases. And that's also my survival mechanism. We talked about this. It was a survival mentality that said a person looks like that, and so they must be a threat to me. And what I did not realize was that on the other side of that spectrum, that person was having the same thought process about me because they didn't know me the same way I didn't know them. And so there's a survival mechanism that kicks in based on the things that we have been assimilated into. We have been assimilated to think that white people are a threat to black people and black people are a threat to white people, and that we are forever enemies. But we have never been taught to think that we all want the same things. We have been given this idea that one is a boogeyman to the other. And it is in that where people become comfortable with living, because we have existed in a system for so long that says that you are my enemy, that my only brother's keeper looks like me, and that the only people I can trust look like me, and that the only people that I can have relationship with look like me, and the only people who share my values look like me. And the truth is so far from that. And so instead of allowing people to give us a microphone only to talk over us on theirs, how about we remain calm on the other end of that microphone? How about we remind that person that everything that you're saying, that none of it negates the fact that I want the same things that you want, that I want a safe neighborhood, that I'm not saying that it's this person's fault or that person's fault, that I understand that it is the politics that we all live under that allows us to be separated, divided, and distinguished by all of these different markers of not these nonsensical markers that 100% divide and separate us. I'm not a person that believes in separation. I'm not a person that believes in segregation. I'm not a person that believes that we need to be on our own sides of the fence. I have been scarred by some things. I have in the past had issues with people who are involved in interracial relationships because of the damage that has been done and the trauma that has been done to me through my DNA and through my experiences as a Black person. And I thought to myself and think to myself sometimes that these people mean harm. And so it is a deprogramming that I have had to do. And we all need to deprogram. My best friend for 30 years, one of my oldest friends in the world, my brother from another mother, is married to a white woman who I love and adore. I love their kids. The proof is in front of us. If we can just break down these systems of assimilation, because it really is that. We have not made it uncomfortable for people to get out and speak division and hatred and bigotry and sexism and racism and misogyny and homophobic rhetoric, because we have not pulled down the systems of assimilation that exist in our minds. It's not about going out there and matching energy for energy. It is about going out there and matching the truth to a lie. It's about going out there and matching similitude to division, right? It's about going out there and putting dignity and humanity front stage, front and center in the face of bigotry and hatred. It's not about sound bites. It's not about politicians who are willing to go and fight the same dirty fight that some other politician is fighting. It is about educating ourselves, but also about educating the people around us. The problem also is that so many people around us are ignorant to the truth, and you become numb to the violent rhetoric and the vitriol and the hatred. You become numb to it. And so you turn it off and you allow these people to do whatever the heck they want to do. I get it. But we cannot become so numb that we damn our children and our grandchildren and the future of this world and this planet into the hands of those who would destroy all of it and them. When you defund Planned Parenthood because you disagree with abortions and don't realize that Planned Parenthood does not do or hand out abortion medication or do more abortions than they do breast cancer screenings or than they do women's health, then when you don't understand that by defunding public broadcast television and PBS and all of these places, that you are taking away one of the best places that a child can get an education from. You're taking away public broadcasting. You're taking away aid to the rest of the world. You've got HIV medications taken away from the rest of the world. It is because of the United States of America that HIV has been curtailed all the way across the world, especially in places like Africa. When you are telling people that they should not get vaccinated, and now we have children dying from measles, and we have not had children dying from measles in decades. When you are telling older people, no, you cannot get a COVID-19 vaccination, even though we know that if they get COVID-19, they're fragile and frail enough that it may kill them still. When we are convincing parents that autism is found at the end of a vaccination needle, nonsense. This is about way more than the divisions and the things that divide us. But we cannot be afraid to speak about it. If they are trying to abridge our free speech and burn our books, then we must speak up and write more. We must be louder, and we must produce more written work than they can come after. Voices cannot be silenced. The truth cannot be muzzled, no matter how much they try to do it. But how we use that freedom of speech and how we use our ability to speak into spaces and to get into intellectual conversations and to change philosophy and to change ideals and systems, how we do that matters. Our speech cannot become their speech. It cannot become reckless. It cannot become unhinged. If it does, we give them a pretext to say that your speech must be abridged. Now, is that fair? Maybe not. That we can't act the way they act, that we can't say what they say. Is that fair? Maybe not. But the question becomes, do you really want to be like them? Or are we saying this stuff because we speak at least a rhetoric that is better than theirs? Free speech comes with responsibility. It comes with the responsibility of community, of humanity, and of truth, of ethics, of morality, of something called cosmology. Understanding that we are all in this together. Do not be afraid, my brothers and sisters, to speak your mind, to speak truth to power. Do not be afraid, because your speech is free. Even if they tell you you cannot say a certain thing, speak it if it's the truth. Write it. Go to medium.com and start writing. You can do it for free. You can do this for free. You can get on YouTube for free. You can educate people for free. We have the modes, we have the means, we have the methods. And now let us flood the zone with so much free speech, with so much truth coming out, with so much intelligence, with so much expertise, that we flood the zone in such a way that it overwhelms what they're trying to do. That as they try to abridge our free speech, let us build a bridge over it so that we rise above their rhetoric. We rise above their challenge. We rise above their nonsense. And that we speak the truth because we are free to do so. Violence has no place in any society. Let me reiterate that and close with this. Violence has no place in society. If a man or woman gets up and says the worst things, you have two choices. Engage them with truth. Don't shy away from their tactics. Don't shy away from them maybe being a bully. Remain 10 toes down, standing on business, as they say, or ignore them. The worst thing you could do to a bully is ignore the bully. The worst thing you can do to somebody that wants to attention and to yell and to scream and to be heard is to stop listening to them. Is to literally cut off their ability to get attention. That's also free. My brothers and sisters, we will succeed. To answer the question that someone asked me before, can we change? Heck yeah. 100%. Can we do something about this? 100%. Can we hold businesses accountable who preempt Jimmy Kimmel live shows? Can we hold school districts accountable that terminate teachers who simply had something to say? Yes, we can. We do that with our purse, with our power, with our money. We do that with the vote. The Board of Ed is made up of a collection of people you vote for. And freedom of speech also falls into the right to vote. It is your voice. It is the most powerful voice you will give to this nation. But I implore you, speak up, speak out, be brave, be unafraid. And I leave you with Shirley Chisholm. Unbossed, be unbothered. And if there is no seat at the table for you, if they refuse to put a chair for you to sit there, you bring your own chair and you sit there and you use your ability to speak freely, to speak truth, to power. Go get some expertise or find what you are passionate about, learn about it, dive into it, figure out the truth of it and how it impacts us as a society, our culture, and how it can be used to move us forward together. My brothers and sisters, I'm just a kid from Brooklyn. Nothing more, nothing less. That is all I will ever be. I don't know who you are, but live the truth of who you are and be true to your power to be able to speak freely and to speak truth, even in the moments no one wants to hear it. Literally, that's my show for today. In another 2 weeks, we should have our full complement of folks. Coco the Don will be back. Steve will be back. And we'll have these conversations together because our voices together are more powerful than just one. These are two different generations of people. I'm the older elder statesman in this, but we've got a millennial and we've got Gen Z, and their perspectives on these things matter. Listen to people, hear what they have to say, find a way to communicate with each other on common ground so that you can develop a shared truth, so that we can pull down the systems of assimilation and really live up to the ideals of what I think is the greatest experiment in human history, the American experiment, where all people are created equal and get to enjoy those inalienable rights that they have been granted from being created from the same substance and source of power. My brothers and sisters, I'm going to see you again in 2 weeks. I don't have a catchphrase and none of that good stuff. So I'll just say thank you for tuning in. Share this. We'll be back. I do have some stuff to say. Keep in mind, we're starting a sports podcast with Coco and Steve. These They hound me all day about sports betting, and all of these different things. They are experts in sports betting, experts in sports in general, and they are going to have a time on a Kid from Brooklyn Sports podcast. So please, when we launch that, tune into that, share it, share it, share it, share this channel, share all of this. We really want to step into this space because we really think that it's needed and necessary right now. I'm gonna holler at y'all next time. As old people say,